Hello, today I will be walking you guys through the identification, classification, and solving of first order ODEs. So first we have identification. And this is the very first step. Once we have an equation, we need to check and see if it is linear or nonlinear, because that will determine what we do in our next step, which is classification. And if a equation is linear, then it will follow a certain form that I have on my explanation write-up. And if it is nonlinear, then it will not be in that form. So once we know if our equation is linear or nonlinear, we can choose our appropriate solution method. And certain methods can only be used for linear equations, and some can really only be used for nonlinear equations. And the ones that can be used for nonlinear equations are separation of variables and the Bernoulli substitution. And then the ones that can be used for linear equations are separation of variables, integrating factor method, method of undetermined coefficients. Once you have chosen your solution method, you are now ready to solve your equation. I will briefly go through how to use each method of solution in order to solve your equation. You can use the solution method, separation of variables, if you have a linear equation, and you can separate the x variables onto one side of the equation and the y variables onto the other side of the equation. And then once you have done that, you can integrate both sides of the equation, not forgetting to add the constant of integration, and then rearrange the equation to solve for y. The first step in using the integrating factor method is to, of course, find your integrating factor. And your integrating factor is e to the integral of p dx. And p is whatever is in front of your y term. And once you have your integrating factor, you then multiply everything through with that factor, both sides of the equation. And then once you have done that, you can integrate both sides of the equation, and not forgetting the constant of integration, and then solve for y. So you can use the method of undetermined coefficients to solve your equation if the coefficient in front of the y variable is constant, and if the right-hand side is either exponential, a function of sine or cosine, or a polynomial. And first you have to find the homogeneous solution, which is when you set the left-hand side of the equation equal to 0 and solve. And then you must find the particular solution, which involves knowing what format to set the right-hand side equal to. And then you also solve that equation, and then to get the general solution, you add the two. You can use the Bernoulli substitution if it is in the form that is on my explanation write-up. But if the equation is not in that form, you can also get it to reduce down to linear by using the substitution u is equal to y to the 1 minus n, where n is any real number. And once you have it down to that format, you can solve, and you're likely going to have to use a different method of solution to finish up the Bernoulli substitution, so either like integrating factor method or method of undetermined coefficients. Thank you for watching my educational video. I hoped it solidify your knowledge in solving first order ODEs.